Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Rhonda Gilbraith. Welcome to Primetime in the Library. Primetime gives us the opportunity to come together, students, faculty, and staff across offices and disciplines to learn from each other and share with each other our talents, our experiences, and our accomplishments. And it's a collaborative project between the Friends of the University Library and various offices on campus. We record most of the programming, and you can find those recordings at the Bethel University Digital Library. You have an opportunity to join us twice next Tuesday, the 30th of April, at 11:15. Senior social work majors Christabella Morse, Katie Kudo-Barton, Alyssa Knight, and Madeline Hoffert share about their path to the National BPD Conference. I can't recall what that acronym stands for, but it's a social work conference. And their presentations that bring attention to the U.S. southern border refugee crisis and systemic violence against Indigenous women in order to provide advocacy for various policy efforts to address those injustices. Then in the afternoon at 1 p.m., Edburn Scholars Doctor of Nursing Kristen Sandow and senior nursing student Karin Kanakis discuss their research on living with a left ventricular assist device. But today, we continue our month-long celebration of poetry with our 6th annual Poetry and Music Primetime. Poetry is always welcome, but it seems especially so at this time of the year in the early spring while so much around us is coming back to new life. And I want to prime the pump for us a little bit by reading a few quotations that help to express why and how poetry is so powerful. A poet is, before anything else, a person who is passionately in love with language. That's W.H. Auden. There is not a particle of life which does not bear poetry within it. That's Gustave Flaubert. My role in society, or any artist's or poet's role, is to try and express what we all feel, not to tell people how to feel, not as a preacher, not as a leader, but as a reflection of us all. That's John Lennon. Poetry is nearer to vital truth than history. That's Leonardo da Vinci. The poet is the priest of the invisible. Wallace Stevens. Poetry is eternal graffiti written in the heart of everyone. Lawrence Ferlinghetti. And poetry is ordinary language raised to the nth power. Poetry is boned with ideas, nerved and blooded with emotions, all held together by the delicate, tough skin of words. Paul Engel. We have a really fun lineup today, and first up is Tracy Reimer.
The poem I will be reading is titled Prayer of Learned Yearning. The author is Dr. Kathy Nevins. She is someone I consider a mentor, a friend, and I love like family. The night before the last day of class. A strange time to be reflecting on wishes and hopes and dreams and prayers for those who have spent every weekday morning listening to names and dates, remembering something or maybe nothing of consequence. Yet, it is the stories I want them to hear, others' stories that come alive, so that they might become more intrigued with their own. I wish for them to draw wisdom from lessons in failure, in lives worn down, worn thin, worn out, and lessons of triumph from those who persevered, overcame, adapted, adopted, transpired, transformed, changed. I wish for them to be thankful for the women who bore them, for their matriarchal lineage that endured great pain to further the gift of life, to be thankful for the women who go before them, ordinary women doing extraordinary things, now extraordinary women doing ordinary things, who carved a path for themselves in treacherous terrains that we might later come to stroll more freely among hills and plains. To be thankful for who they are and will become, more centered, more holy, never sure but more secure in the discovery of themselves, the giving of gifts, the fulfillment of their calling. God, nurture the inner light that they might shine in any darkness, and let no human hinder their way. May they know joy. May they know love. May they know peace. Amen. The next reader is Elijah Sams.
My name is Elijah Sams, and I have chosen two rather short poems, but that have a lot of meaning to me for many different reasons. First is my particularly favorite Shakespearean sonnet. This is Sonnet 46. Mine eye and heart are at a mortal war, how to divide the conquest of thy sight. Mine eye, my heart, thy picture's sight would bar. My heart, mine eye, the freedom of that right. My heart doth plead that thou in him dost lie, a closet never pierced with crystal eyes. But the defendant doth that plea deny, and says in him thy fair appearance lies. To side this title is impaneled, a quest of thoughts, all tenants to the heart, and by their verdict is determined, the clear eye's moiety and the dear heart's part. As thus, mine eye's due is thine outward part, and my heart's right, thine inward love of heart. And the second, it's a little bit more well known, but just as good all the same. This is Nothing Gold Can Stay by Robert Frost. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf. So Eden sank to grief, so dawn does down to day. Nothing gold can stay. And next up is Krista Copeland.
Hello. How are you guys? Good. We can figure this out. So this first song, both of these are ones that I've written. This first one is called Closer. I know you're not scared to be alone. Pick up your phone, 'cause I'm waiting for the world to end. Come over and hold my hand. I've doubted myself for a while, then you smiled, and I don't know what to think, 'cause this ship's always been sinking. Just come a little closer, tell me you want me badly. Just come a little closer, tell me you love me. And tell me what game we're playing, 'cause I wake up every morning and try to figure out what to say or what move to make. 'cause I don't know what you're thinking, but I know you're not scared to be alone. But pick up your phone, 'cause I'm waiting for the world to end. So come over and hold my hand. Just come a little closer. Tell me you want me badly. Just come a little closer. Tell me you love me. And chase me down when I'm running in the wrong direction. And scream out loud when no one else is listening. And chase me down when I'm running in the wrong direction. And scream out loud when no one else is listening. Just come a little closer. Tell me you want me badly. Just come a little closer. Tell me you love me. Just come a little closer. Tell me you want me badly. Just come a little closer. Tell me you love me. This one is, I don't remember what it's called. So I'll think of it and I'll tell you at the end. I don't know you. It's getting hard to break through. When we meet, I hope I see something in you. I don't know you, but I really want to. We could watch the stars and feel so brand new. Someday I'll be bold. One day you'll be mine. Someday I'll know you. Someday, someday I'll be bold. One day you'll be mine. Someday I'll know you. Someday I don't know you. At least I don't think I do. I'm sure you have the brightest eyes and the sweetest smile. I don't know you, but maybe you know me. Still all the bears run past all the honeybees. Someday I'll be bold. One day you'll be mine. Someday I'll know you. Someday, someday I'll be bold. One day you'll be mine. Someday I'll know you. Someday, and until that day comes, I'll be waiting for the sun. Someday I'll be bold. One day you'll be mine. Someday I'll know you. Someday, someday I'll be bold. One day you'll be mine. Someday I'll know you. Someday I don't know you. Doesn't matter if I do. You're outside my window looking for me. It's called Someday. The next person up is Mary Lars.
I was hoping that I had printed this big enough, but I'm not. This is I Thank You, God by E.E. Cummings. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirits of trees and a blue true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I, who have died, am alive again today, and this is the sun's birthday. This is the birthday of life and of love and of wings, and of the gay, great, happening, illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, any lifted from the no of all nothing, human merely being, doubt unimaginable you? Now the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are opened. And next up is Susie Nelson.
Good morning. Today I'm reading two poems, but one is one that my husband wrote, and so he showed up. So he's gonna read his own poem, which would be much better. I've got a little prop that I'll explain later for him too, if he wants to use it. Otherwise, feel free to get rid of it. But the first poem is the one I wrote after the sudden death of my mother-in-law in December, which followed my own mother's death 3 months earlier in September. And my mother had suffered for over 12 years with Alzheimer's. The second poem, maybe Tim will want to say more about it, but it's written in his first person voice. He is a Bethel grad, so doesn't work here, but I think we could still accept him. And he was an English major, so that's even better.
Yay!
And self-proclaimed coffeeholic. He writes about his addiction at the end of the poem, and at the end of the poem he shares a sweet memory from a few years ago with my coffee-loving and serving mom. My poem's called Parent Passing. We enter this world not knowing we should be grateful for the woman whose womb was home, whose body gave nourishment beyond birth, whose love, hugs, tears, and strength shaped us. As puberty comes, we are eager to be liberated from her dwelling, counting the days till 18, college, moving away. Then when we are sick and alone, we miss the mother's comforting touch, soup, soothing words. And quickly we forget and become self-absorbed, drawing strength instead from friends. We form new families, and only then we understand. We appreciate. We give thanks. We visit, but not often enough. We call, but conversations are too short. The day arrives when our mother begins to fade, perhaps even loses her memories of us, those she created, nurtured, held. Our time to cling comes too late. Sometimes she declines quickly. Sometimes she's gone in an instant. Sometimes we face the long goodbye. Long or short, when death comes, it is always jarring. Memories are what remain. Pictures, trinkets, shared spaces. And as we gather up the remnants, we draw strength to capture these pieces, to give to others what we've been given, sharing with young, old, friends, families, strangers, striving to make the world more bright as we are better because she lived and poured into us. So Tim, you want to come on up? Clap if you want.
I used to tell people that my mother-in-law and I were drinking buddies. And then when they'd give me a funny look, I would say, well, coffee drinking buddies. She loved coffee as much as I did, and in the 30-plus years that we would travel there for Christmas, come to Tennessee, she would always be ready with a fresh pot of coffee for me. And those are special times that we shared. So I wrote this a few years back after a visit we had with her in the nursing home where she was in the memory ward. So I have a morning ritual for which I sometimes receive a little flack. These snobbish aficionados are quick to point out where I lack. For my regular morning practice takes me to the microwave with my mug, one hand cradling my jar of Taster's Choice, the other one holding a heaping teaspoon of my drug. And when I sit on my back porch, swinging freely in my padded chair, the fragrance that even non-drinkers love comes wafting gently through the air. Through the woods on cold October nights when caribou are outnumbered by the deer, I salivate when my nose is courted by God's nectar, yes, sweeter than beer. In my more spendthrift days on the road, when the caffeine muses call, I shell out a day's worth of sweat for the stiffest, darkest roast of all. However, I'm forced into pretentiousness when my call for venti or grande. I fight back the urge for frappuccinos, lest all my heavenly bucks go astray. But my best cup of joe ever was served in a Tennessee home, where those living past their memories were locked down, no more to roam. It came with a glimmer of recognition, served in a plain styrofoam cup. The accompanying smile signaled connection. So with gratefulness, I could only look up.
Yeah, Rhonda will come up next to introduce the Healy poetry.
So the next group of readers are the finalists in the Jerry Healy Poetry Prize. This award was established to honor the beloved memory of Jerry Healy, who was here at Bethel for many years. He had an outsized personality in all senses of that word. He was a true Renaissance man. He was a professor, he was a multi-sport enthusiast and coach, he was a comedian, he was a raconteur, and he left a deep and lasting impression here at Bethel. He also deeply loved poetry, and so after he passed, his family created this prize to honor that love. So the first, before I start, the theme for this year's contest was displacement. These poems will be published in a special section of the Coeval, which is Bethel's literary magazine, and 3 winners will be awarded on Thursday, May 16th at the English Department Senior Symposium, which is held in the Olson Boardroom at 4 p.m. on that day. Now, the first one of these is called Mother Tongue. It's written by Evelyn Chachenko. She could not be with us, but she graciously agreed to allow me to read her poem to you. So this is Mother Tongue. Like that cup of unfinished tea that's gone cold, the drained leaves all settled comfortably at the very bottom, the condensed pigment trapped, sleeping beneath. Like that funny cloud passing, it's your father's sweater, it's your mother's hands, it's your first kiss, it's none of those things, it's gone. Like that short story you never get, that always makes sense. Like that dive underwater, the irrelevant movement of the world above like a drop curtain, to the slow light chafing against you, your body responding naturally to the pressure and the freedom of the lack of air. Like that quiet library dimly lit after hours, humming with its opaque heaviness, hovering over time. The vowels of my mother tongue are demanding to be pronounced, taking up foggy lumps of space in my lungs, already charged with the air to liberate them. I need only to open my mouth. I need only to give a form for the word to occupy. I need only to call myself by my own name, but it never comes to that. Elaine Malmsten is next. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Elaine Malmsten, and I will be reading my piece entitled Diaspora. Remnants of our childhood line the sky. Bleached skeletons of hollowed homes line the dust like broken bottles on a rotted picket fence. Peppered gunfire decorate the night beneath the midnight exodus. Children clutch their mothers' chests as we stumble down the road. The sands beneath our feet is cool, damp with our father's tears that reflect the sky above. A fallen trail of starlight that guides us into the unknown. A lamp for our weary feet as we start in search for a new and a better home. Next up is Jamie.
Both of my poems come from studying abroad. The first one is called Off Track. There's a hiss a train makes when its wheels or hooves or claws or some other mechanical beastly appendage grips on the middle tracks. A hiss that can't be solved by a little elbow grease or WD-40. A hiss that stems from the age-old horror of being stationary. The train digs in its haunches, quaking under the patience of its hindrances. Please, it whispers, let me roam wild. On gravel or long grass, anything but these very tracks. Anywhere but the world I know. The second one is called Measurements of Time. Today I am thinking about how many germs my hand collects when gliding down an escalator rail. How many neon-jacketed workers Versailles needs to maintain faultlessly trimmed trees. How many Parisian traffic accidents are due to aggression, and how many Midwest ones are due to meekness. I am thinking about how many books with heavy words I can squeeze into my knee-high suitcase. How many baguettes I can consume before my tubes clog like tissue in train toilets. How many steps I can take before tripping over cobblestone or collapsing in the rock-hard hotel beds. I'm thinking about how many times I apologize for my Americanness. How many sorries, as tout un lies, pardons I utter when ordering and asking. How many cocos before my cheeks heat up. How many times my Target sneakers scrape my heels until the pink flesh numbs. How many awe-inducing sights and murmured amens to a God-praised cross cultures. How many euros funneled into the restoration of history? How many humans sleeping on frozen benches rather than rock-hard hotel beds? I'm thinking about how many melancholy tunes played by street artists, how many lovers with eyes lit brighter than cities, how many quiet calls home remind me of you, how many counted germs, baguettes, and amens before you're mine again. And the next reader is Anita Stassen.
The first poem I wrote is called The Room at Evening. A stained suitcase deflated in the corner, water working hard to drip from the hole in the low ceiling, and your face, dusty, hardened, yet somehow soft. The skin of your cheeks still shows youth that stubborn travel hasn't blotted out, and when you smile, there is a hint of something other than pain. But maybe it's a trick of the light because one bulb is burnt out and the other is on its way. A draft picks up and the damp room freezes over, but you are accustomed to cold. You know the feeling in your fingertips of roofless nights and wandering days. You know the feeling of digging through wreckage, mouth dry as July sand, arms so sore they sigh. The walls hold something reminiscent of what you left home for, but the memory doesn't come clearly, and a bleak taste is left in your mouth, trying to savor some promise that was spoken in what feels like another lifetime. The words are irretrievable, like the white of the carpet and the trek back home, and now in the sagging room of unmet hope, you lean forlornly on a tattered mat, closing dull eyes, lulling yourself to sleep with the chant that tomorrow will be better. The leaks will patch themselves, the pain will settle, and somehow, though the room is dim, tomorrow will be brighter. And the second poem I have is called Calculating Displacement. There's something about vectors that tosses me into another world, lost and dazed and a little afraid, like being torn from the only arms I know. All this acceleration, the magnitude of moving onward to a new place, hoping for a welcome arrival, an oasis for dreams to grow, but instead you are left staring at a line. A blank line that strikes through all ideas of hope and stability, a line that separates wearied mothers from displaced daughters, and they say we need to keep this line, lengthen the line. Maybe instead of solving for the length of this line, we could cross the line, toss the line, stop forcing me this line. Don't ignore the crushed cries, the hopes that quickly melt into disappointment in the heat of travel. When you ignore, you forget what you're solving for. Not for a line, not for how far we can distance ourselves, but for a home. Next up is Alyssa Tay.
Hi, so I'm Alyssa. And just to give some emotional context, I actually wrote this poem, and it reflects a lot of my feelings about how I feel about the melting pot culture in the United States, because I love dealing with cultural issues. So if you want to talk to me about that more, please do. So let's jump right in. They say that identity theft is one of the worst things that can happen to you. Someone masquerading around in your skin, carrying your name on their shoulders. If only they would take your burdens too. See, it's not fair. They didn't spend countless years picking apart pieces of the people we love most and stitching them into our soul where they would reside forever. I laugh like my mother. I think like my father. I judge like my sister, and I love like my brother. Instead, they ripped the autonomy from our hearts and wore it on their smile like the makeup of a clown. Well, who's funny now? We picked up the remainder, stretched them like rubber until they filled the cracks. There's a couple gaps, but that's okay. We make do. We always do. We stuff the crevices with hay, filling the innermost parts of ourselves with cushion, as if it will lessen the pain of falling into a mistake we made by trusting someone with our face and our name. We gave them everything, and we lost everything. They spoke it on their lips, and it sounded like gold. But the more it spoke, they turned it into coal, darkening the edges around our eyes, taking the color from our cheeks, and they used it to steal the very life in our eyes so they could see their own. By the time they were done, we looked like lifeless burlap sacks, buttons for eyes and stitches for a smile. We limp around like patchwork scarecrows. Nothing grows in the straw-filled chasms of our overalls. The masks used to cover our features have been stolen. Is it really theft if you never get caught? And that was titled Scarecrow. Angela Shannon.
I'm going to read two poems, one from my husband, who is my favorite poem that he's written. And he's written a lot of poems, but this is my favorite because he writes it to his great-grandmother. And he was born in Jamaica, and he moved to this country when he was 12, and he heard a lot of things about America. So he writes back to her because a lot of those things weren't true. And she didn't know those things. You know, she never made it to this country. So it's called Letter from Foreign. I'm gonna try to read it the way he reads it. It's an old poem, but it's still my favorite. Dear Mom, there are so many things I have to tell you about America. The place where you said the streets are gold and there are many people with good hair like those in the movies. Remember when I used to play with the toy helicopter and fly away or foreign? Well, Mom, dearest Grandma, I have some news for you. America is not in the sky like the plains, but is on land, flat land. Droopy cornfields and choking chimneys with latrines and doo-doo and frowsy ragamuffins as good as dead on the sidewalks. Mom, you tell me, say, God bless America, for the people here good. I have some more news for you. Sure, some people go to church and chapel and mosque and synagogue and march and pray, and some smile when they see you on the street. Some don't say morning, dog, and sometimes them cross the street when we pass them. For a healthy black man is a dinosaur blowing fire at the people with pretty hair. And you know how easy it is for hair to catch fire. Mom, you tell me they have scholarships galore, and are true, but you never say anything about glass, about aquarium, and how buckwheat can encase you in glass, so that no matter how loud you scream, no matter how much you bark, the ceiling's still there. I don't want to bring down God on me, so I must say that education here good, and that we learn all kinds of things about Greece and Rome. Me speak Italian now, some French, even Japanese. All these things you wanted me to do, Mom. But there's lots of glass about. Lenses, ceilings, bottles, and they're all trained on me, you know. Reflecting, watching, waiting, and laughing. But I have to follow your lead. Almost a century and still not weary yet. I must never get weary yet. I'm going to read one. It's based on an art piece by John Vickers called How I Got Over, which is also a song. And it's about bridges and bridges being created. So I don't know if it's a good description of the art piece, though. It troubles me a little bit. But, but anyway, that's my own personal thing. How I got over. I look back and bridges everywhere. The slanted ladder, a bridge, a diagonal crossing. In front of the rustic one-room house, a footprint bridge leading to work fields, bridges accumulating like glass jars lining country roads. Next to the makeshift school, a beam bridge of books leading to college. Arch bridges leading to and fro, from laundry on the clothesline to scrubbing hardwood floors, a step bridge for each job, from the domestic work to diner cook, from secretarial work to management, then suspension bridges held sturdy, big-hearted folk in prayer, leading to lawyer, journalist, judge, underground bridges linking to mayor, police chief, and Congress. Then bridges found only when spirit led, constructive of hopes and dreams, each pillar a tower of possibilities. Now, the future in front of you, beckoning you over, travel this unseen bridge, each slab built as you step.
You have seen me before. But I asked Rhonda if I could read this one near the end because it's a blessing. A blessing by John Donahue. Sorry, John O'Donohue. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the currach of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life.
Beautiful way to end our time together. Thank you, Mary, and thank you to all the contributors. For more poetry fun, check out a couple displays we have over there by the stairs. One that's featuring stories in verse, and then we have several movies that feature poets or poetry. Thanks, everyone, for coming.